Let's talk about that Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree trailer that just dropped a few hours ago. In the Land of Shadow, Miquella awaits the return of his promised lord, a place obscured by the Erdtree, where the goddess Marika first set foot, a land purged in an unsung battle, set ablaze by Mesmer's flame. It was to this land that Miquella departed, divesting himself of his flesh, his strength, his lineage, of all things golden. Pure and radiant, he wields love to shrive clean the hearts of men. There is nothing more terrifying. No doubt this is referring to Miquella. As has long been anticipated, he is the important character missing from base game that DLC focuses upon. My first thought was perhaps this particular line comes from the cut NPC Rico, but as I recall, he was a big fan of Saint Trina, so well, this is probably someone new or repurposed. Likewise, as many have anticipated and was confirmed in an interview with Miyazaki, the DLC is triggered by activating the egg in Mohg's boss room. You also need to have defeated General Radahn. Near the end of the trailer, a voice remarks, "Come now, touch the withered arm and travel to the realm of shadow. I will not be far behind, may we meet again." I wonder if this is an NPC we're physically talking to, or more like a disembodied voice. My money would be on the latter, that it's a disembodied Miquella voice that's telling us, hey, go touch that and play DLC stuff. The DLC takes place in what I suppose we can call the Shadow Realm, which is not involving time travel, Miyazaki has said. Does this mean it will be a sort of mirror to the lands between, or a completely new place? Is it a nightmare, a dream world? From what we know of Miquella in the base game, at least one of his goals was to restore souls to at least one, if not all, of the soulless demigods. The eclipsed sun, drained of colour, is the protective star of the soulless demigods. Miquella also created the Halig tree, his own golden tree, you might say. A tree that sits both in the shadow of the Erdtree and is in itself a shadow of the Erdtree. At any rate, Miquella's intentions appear to be good, but in a Souls game, who can really say what is good? We will be following in his footsteps, and there will be NPCs who are also doing much the same, and we will be learning more about Marika's origins. The most prominently featured area in the trailer resembles, to some extent, Altus, but what are those drapes or veils seemingly descending from the sky above the Shadow Erdtree? Just indications that this isn't quite reality? Well, they made me think of Marika's bedchamber, for sure. We see a figure seated on a throne in a large, rather wrecked room with torches that burn purple. There's a few purple themes throughout here, in fact. Where the trailer isn't predominantly gold and red, it's blue and purple. Elden Ring always had extremely nice colours and rather thematic colours. Limgrave is green, Caelid is red, Liurnia is blue, Altus is gold, and so on. Thankfully, it seems the DLC will continue this aesthetic trend. Either way, the hat of that figure suggests a somewhat holy figure to me, and I kind of associate purple in Elden Ring with sleep and the Glowmide Queen. And if we are learning more about Marika's past, maybe that is the Glowmide Queen, maybe it's one of the Glowmide Queen's attendants. Or not. The burning Wicker Man enemy is full of unfortunate victims. Is this an act of Mesmer's? He does seem to like burning people and impaling, paling. He seems to be the current ruling power of this land, although we'll touch more on Mesmer in a moment. This lion enemy is really interesting. It's a lion dancer. It's made up of at least 2 men that are effectively doing a lion dance. They're also using lightning powers. That's curious, as lightning powers in Elden Ring are traditionally linked to the dragons, and Godwyn's followers who picked up the knack. There might be some grafting involved here too, maybe. There's a lot of limbs, but it's all kind of blurry and hard to tell in the trailer. In the interview, Miyazaki mentioned that this lion dancer enemy is from a culture before the Erdtree or something. So does that mean it has something to do with Placidusax? Because that would make sense, because lightnings, dragons, lions? Question mark? They're also... the head of that lion, is that like a beast regent, like Sarosh? The line, Mother, wouldst thou lordship sanction blah 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 could be spoken by Mesmer, but the fact that line is played whilst he's on screen isn't proof, but I feel like it all makes sense. In the interview, Miyazaki mentions that Mesmer's throne is either the same as Morgott Margit or very similar to, and well, that would draw obvious parallels between them, and there are a few. I think it makes sense that that voice is his, and it would make sense that Mesmer is one of Marika's children. He is in fact the big topic of the trailer. His design has a lot going on. Red hair and a helmet somewhat reminiscent of Melania's. Not in design, but just in shape and the way it draws the eye and rests on the head. It's a bit hard to tell too, but one of his eyes seems almost like it's sewn shut. And there's the fact that he has obvious serpentine and draconic elements. The visible eye, the red snakes, the little black wings, which remind me of the Drake set. Then there's the flame he wields. It isn't quite destined death looking, nor is it yellow enough for chaos, which makes it closer to, I suppose, Rykard's volcanic sorceries or the Fell Flame. Or maybe it's just random fire. The Praetor sure liked snakes though. Still, if that voice was Mesmer and Marika was his mother, would that make Radagon the father? Would it make a giant the father on account of the red hair? Or are dragons involved in some manner? Another possibility could be Radagon is his father and Renala is his mother, but that line, if it is his line, wouldn't really make sense if Renala's his mother. Unless, I don't know, Marika's the one he thinks of as his mother. Because yeah, it's referring to Marika inviting the Tarnished back to the Lands Between, and Mesmer seems to think that's stupid, much as Mr. Margit McMorgott thought. He really didn't like us Tarnished. Mesmer is a real surname, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it's also very reminiscent of the word mesmer. Maybe he's a fan of Guild Wars and he likes using illusions. And if we want to look at links with him in the main game, there's others we could make, like the Smouldering Butterflies, I suppose. I don't think he's like an alternative Miquella, because Miquella already has Saint Trina. I mean, you know, it's always possible, and again, Miyazaki even mentions in the interview that the whole point of the story of these games is kind of for you to some extent, decide for yourself what is going on, but we'll see. There's a lot of random or tangential links we could try and make, but the important thing to know is that Mesmer is pulling the whole Margit thing and underestimating the Tarnished. He's a fool, and we should eat him. There's another voice in the trailer which remarks, "Those stripped of the grace of gold will meet death in the embrace of Mesmer's flames," or something like that. That's the other possible voice of Mesmer in this trailer, although I think it's more likely to be an NPC who is telling us about Mesmer and how he rules this land. On that note though, I don't think Mesmer will be the final boss of the DLC. He is featured prominently and the Collector's Edition statue is Mesmer, sure, but I could see him being an early to halfway, but still very important boss. What do you think? Interesting that he's referred to as the Impaler. Remember in the base game we had the Impaler's Catacombs? We saw some new weapons and spells in the trailer, of course, and armor. The butterfly AoE spell used by not Roderico was interesting. I could see it having a connection to Miquella or Melania, sure. The most exciting thing was obviously the spiritual return of the Dragonbone Fist, or whatever we're going to be calling it this time. Whether it's a weapon, a spell, or a weapon art, who knows. I like that shadowless kick attack either way. We saw some like Giga Chad Black Knight armor from an enemy using what basically looked like an assault rifle Dark Souls version. We also saw what looked a lot like the dragon head incantations, but this time it was not a lion. Is it a bear? Well, there was something about rune bears and dragons now, wasn't there? The fight against the red enemy in a field of blue was really interesting. The way that figure fought made me think of Melania's teacher, although that should have been blue. Are the colours inverted or something because this is the Shadow Land? Did you notice the strange dueling shield the Tarnished was using against Mesmer? It looks like it had a special attack, which Mesmer wasn't keen to see, but It's kind of cool to see a dueling shield being put in. I don't think I'll use it, but it's always nice to have new options. Finally, the trailer ends with Mikola. Again, most likely that is Mikola. They could always pull like a bait and switch and that's like a hologram of young Marika, I don't know. Mikola doing something. It's odd how the tree almost seems frozen in time here. And to talk briefly about, sort of more general gameplay stuff, the fact that this DLC costs $40 American and is coming out in June, more than 2 years after the game's launch, makes me think we'll have quite a substantial amount of content added to the game. Miyazaki states in the interview that this new area is larger than Limgrave and more densely packed, which is what we like to hear. Miyazaki also stated that the DLC is confined from the main game, the implication being that there won't be a new main game ending tied to the DLC. At least that's how I understood it. The other implication seems to be that this takes place during the game, not after it. And if there's something I hope for, slightly less recycled enemies, because as much as I love Elden Ring, once you've fought the same boss like 10 times just with a slightly different name or something, it starts to lose the appeal. We want quality of bosses, not quantity of bosses. At least I do. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you thought of the trailer too. Till next time, ciao. And hey, it kind of worked. I started my Weapon of the Week thing. I knew it would summon the DLC. Bye.